And welcome. We are so glad you're here tonight. We're thrilled to have George stop with us. The topic is recovering from tragedy, and it's really a very frank and open discussion and understanding of suicide. So we really appreciate George's expertise and experience. For those of you that didn't know, George has years of experience in the field. And in fact, he was worked in South Brunswick Public Schools from 1997 to 2007. Currently, he owns a private practice, I'm just going to read. He's certified in post-traumatic stress management, has been training and consulting in the state of New Jersey with the New Jersey Suicide Prevention Project. So we are so grateful for his presence tonight, his words of wisdom, and our ability then to have some open dialogue around the subject. So welcome.
A somber conversation, and it's intended to be that. You're here because of your kids. You're here because you're scared. You're here because you don't know. You're here because you're sad. You're here because you hear things, you hear rumors. What is this all about? We didn't come to this community. We're not in this community for bad stuff to happen. I get that. Boy, no matter where we are, we do hear that. And tonight is an effort to give you some understanding. It's an effort to tell you what we know, tell you what helps. Some of you may have been, I guess we were in the media center in April when we did Raising Healthy Kids. I don't know if anybody was there. These are actually companion conversations. Because raising healthy kids means, do we see what was going on? Do we understand what was going on with our kids? Do we partner with the school? Is there interventions that we can do? How do we have the conversations with them about being healthy? Because, oh my goodness, we don't want terrible tragedy. I am not avoiding a specific conversation about the incident that happened in August. I'm not avoiding that, because one of the things about suicide conversations is we don't talk about it. One of the things about suicide conversation is it involves issues of mental health, and we don't talk about it. We do know there's stigma. We do know that we're ashamed and embarrassed, and we're just darn afraid to talk to each other or to talk to our own children about, hey, it doesn't seem like things are going well for you. So I'm not avoiding the conversation or any reference to the family that has suffered an unimaginable loss. But what we know is that this work through the Traumatic Loss Coalition is always about survivors. So let me give you a kind of a frank framing on this. I wanted to say you here at Robbinsville High School, and that's not true. It's not about you here at Robbinsville High School. Then I wanted to say, oh, it's those of you in the Robbinsville School District, because maybe there are some parents of middle school kids and elementary kids and high school kids here, right? But that's not it either. See, it's not about that. It's about a community that has suffered a loss of one of its kids. And I would be standing here having a similar conversation if we had suffered the loss by suicide of one of its adult constituents of the community. Because the thing about suicide is it is a public health issue. And we'll talk about what the heck does that mean? It's a public health issue, and therefore everybody within a community, whether they've got kids in school or not, whether they're young or old, whether they're grandparents or not, everybody has a responsibility for a healthy community. And what is it that you can do in your home, in your busy schedule, to make sure that the community is healthy? That's what's important. We're here in the auditorium of Robbinsville High School because the school district has embraced the knowledge and the need to be able to make sure that all the other kids are safe, because that's their focus. And maybe some of you wear other hats other than mom or dad. Maybe some of you are in local scouting or sports. Maybe you're elected office. Maybe you're part of law enforcement. Maybe you're part of the medical community. Maybe. And if you are, then what you hear tonight is about how do we help and band together to help the Robbinsville community be healthy. What we know is that you do and your children do live in a virtual global world where in fact they have relationships with kids and families in other communities beyond Robbinsville. We know that, and that's a little scary sometimes. And they have relationships with people they don't even know, but they have relationships. So we want to talk a little bit about that too. So I guess at the very beginning of this tonight is to be able to say to you, I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to educate you. I'm here to give you hope, because without hope, it's burdensome. We put our heads down and we don't see what we need to see. And because this school district offered this evening, that's a hopeful move. To put the resources behind an evening to get all of you out of your homes on a Tuesday night, that's hopefulness. There'll be some slides. I have a video, I'm not quite sure whether or not we'll fit that in, but we may, to give you a little bit more information. But what I really want to make sure that I do is I want to leave some room for you to ask your questions. And let me give you two ways to do that. One way is that you can certainly just raise your hand, I'll acknowledge it, ask it for the group, and I'll do what I think, or I'll get back to you, or I'll point you in a direction for resource. So tonight's not a presentation, it's a conversation. It's a conversation for me representing the Board of Education, the Superintendent's Office, the school administration, the school staff, and you. But I will also stay behind a little bit in case it's a private question. Because sometimes it's just difficult to do it in a big public arena. You are not alone. We said that in the other presentation. Isolation by human beings and families is not healthy. If you have children that you're seeing them more and more isolated and disconnected and not attached, and they used to be part of teams and groups or friendship groups, and now they're becoming more and more in the room, door closed, alone, not healthy. It's just a red flag. You might as well visualize it flying over your kid's head every time you see your kid. So you are not alone, because you can partner with these folks from the school district, and together there can be a really good safety net put under the children. Working together to help our kids, a candid discussion about recovering from loss. Because that's where I want to begin. Where I want to begin is because perhaps many of you, or all of you, if you got children in this school or in this school district, maybe your kids just felt this young boy's death in a way that you've never seen before. You didn't know what to do about it. How to have that conversation. Because there are a couple things that go on here, and there were some handouts out there, so I hope you grabbed them, because they made them available, and one was, how do you have the conversation? This is not one of those topics where you can say, here, read the book. Where do babies come from? Read the book. It's not one of those conversations. It's you being able to sit down and be real and into your own emotions say, I don't know. I don't know why it happened, but you know what? We're going to figure this out for us. We're going to use the people to school for us. We're going to make this work for you guys and for us. And then the other is, one of the handouts, and the other is, and even though it's after the fact, unfortunately, as being a survivor school, one of the things we're working against is this phenomenon called contagion. And contagion is where the staff here has really got their ear to the rails and want you to call them if in fact you're hearing crazy conversations where you think other kids are in jeopardy. Because what contagion is, it's an emotional virus. Around a suicide death, the research is very clear. Around a suicide death, where there are other vulnerable people, both kids and adults, and we're particularly concerned about our kids tonight, that what we know is that sometimes that death has a way of sabotaging other children. And either increasing their drinking, or increasing their drugging, or increasing their self-injury, or increasing their suicide attempts, or even thinking about dying. If it happened there, it can happen here. So, in order to kind of mitigate, to kind of minimize the effects of contagion, you guys have already taken that step because you're here. And that's good, because your information for you, interpreted in your way as a mom and dad for your children, will be helpful to your family. So tonight's intended to be serious, and it is about well-being. It's about each of your children being well. And I'm going to stress this because it's important, and I have no problem taking on difficult topics. You need to be healthy too. You cannot raise your kids to be healthy if you're not. I'm not asking anybody to disclose anything. That's not my purpose here tonight. My purpose here tonight is to say, in the nest you call home, if there's crap going on that sabotages the well-being of your kids, take a look at the crap and figure out how you can fix that, solve that, resolve that, make that go away. We want you to be healthy because your kids will. Your presence does demonstrate that. This is a hard evening to come to. There are certainly things that you could be, should be, maybe rather be doing, but you're here. I applaud you for that. So let's speak briefly about responses to kids. So if you've lived through the past couple of weeks, since the tragedy happened in the school district, your kids will have responded to the hearing about that death based upon A, did they know him? B, how close or how well did they know him? Did they know the family? Do they know kids who know kids? Or did they not know him at all? And there are these concentric circles. And the closer you are in the middle of that circle, the more the impact. And what you will see is this: fear, anger, worry, and numbness is slowing down. Because when something sudden and tragic happens like this, what happens is a phenomenon called, shattered assumptions about safety. Shattered assumptions means that because of the way you raise your children, they get up every morning believing that they're going to be okay, somebody's got their back, that everybody's coming back for dinner tonight, the world is okay, until a big bad something happens, and all of a sudden that gets shattered, and they get scared. Now they're looking at you like, are we going to be okay? So what we know is that you've probably already been through some of this with your children, and what I'm going to suggest is this. For most of your kids, they have a large measure of something called resiliency, right? This bounce back. They know they're going to be okay because you're okay. They know they're going to be okay because you've had conversations with them. You've sat down with them. You gave them the hug that they wanted. So for the majority of your kids, their resiliency will get them through the sadness, and then they will recover from where they were before. But not for all of your children. And I don't know you, and I don't know your children. But what I do know is there's a large percentage of kids that when something bad happens, it just knocks them down because they don't have the bounce back. They don't have the resiliency. They already maybe had the feeling that their life sucks anyway. This is just another example of it. And you should know that, right? I mean, I think that's really important information for you to know about your child. And we're going to talk about what that looks like and how you can see it and how you can address it. So many of our kids haven't experienced death of a close friend. So therefore, that's why that other article is out there that says, how do you prepare your kids to do memorial services and funeral home services? God, that's not something we want to do as parents. We don't want to do that. But you know, we kind of live in this pretty volatile, fast-moving culture in which, whether it's a suicide death or an accidental death or a cancer death or something bad happens or if there's a fire in the house, what we know is that we need to manage our fear because we don't want to dose that on top of the kids. But at the same time, we need to show them the rituals that we have based upon your faith, based upon your culture, based upon your ethnicity, based upon your family values. What are the rituals that you go through, that you brought forward from your growing up? These are the things we do to grieve and to mourn. That's really important stuff. And sometimes you have to explain what they're going to experience.